Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. And I pray you are all well and doing well today. Let me just get this kind of centered here. There we go. And I pray everything is well in your world. I trust that you are strong and courageous in this hour. We are in some very challenging times right now. And I know many people are uh, very sensitive to that, and that's a good thing. We need to be very sensitive to what's going on across the earth, and the Scripture warns us not to fall. That we're all going to fall asleep, but that we're going to awaken. Those awakening with oil or light to their path will be in a different state than those that are. I have that notice there. Than those that are not walking in his path. And the scripture tells us that he lights our path. And so I pray that you are all blessed, walking in his light, walking in his love. I trust you can hear me because I'm talking and nobody's telling me they can't hear me. So that's a good thing. Amen and amen. And I hope you all had a blessed, restful weekend. Again, want to just encourage you to share the link, like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. We seem to have quite a few people that watch our channel and don't subscribe, so that's kind of interesting. So thank you for those of you that do. And your comments and encouragements are really appreciated. So thank you again for that. And again, I want to remind everyone, I do this pretty much every week, but I think it continues to bear repeating that the reason why we're doing these broadcasts and the reason why we continue to do them and will continue to do them is because too many of our brethren have essentially checked out, and with good reason, because there's so much propaganda and so much misinformation that comes through the news media that all of us have instinctively taken a step back from consumption of propaganda. And so whenever I would share things, I would hear comments like, "Oh, I don't even listen to the news anymore." Well, and in many cases, that's probably healthy for you. But there are certain things that we should keep aware of. And so we do these weekly reviews just so that we're not completely out of the loop and we are aware of what's going on in the world, the trends thereof. Now, we try to take more of the 10,000 foot view, right, gang? I mean, that's basically what we do. We try to take the look at the overall picture, what's happening, and how that fits in the Bible prophecy prophetic picture that we see in the book of Daniel, that we see in the book of Revelation, that is warned about in the book of Matthew, and so forth. And so we take the time to take a look at those things and see how they fit in. And again, for those of you that are unaware, Remnant Watch is a service of the members of Remnant House. And as you can see, it's a free service. We simply aggregate the stories that we're talking about. And so if you are wondering where you can find more information about anything that we discuss on our weekly news updates, you're welcome to come on over here to remnantwatch.com and you'll find all the stories that we reference in our discussions. And so this allows you to dig a little deeper, get some additional references, perhaps look further into a story that has grabbed your interest or that you'd like to know more about. Our task here is just to keep you generally informed and again, analyze some of this information from the 10,000 foot view. And with that, let's get into the news. We've got a number of things that are happening right now, and I know there's a lot of trepidation. I've heard many different comments made concerning the financial things that are happening right now. And I feel that this is an important statement to make because, again, We don't want to take ownership of a system we didn't create. And so, for those that are feeling, almost nostalgic about certain things collapsing or discontinuing, we need to remember that these were imposed upon us, not things that we came up with or that were in compliance even with the scripture. So you're not many. They want you to believe, and they want you to be emotionally attached to their system, so that you will cry for it, so you weep for it. And according to the scripture, Babylon falls, so this cannot be stopped. Okay, so Babylon falls, and as a result of that fall, people mourn, and there's no more doing business anymore with Babylon. That's specifically prophesied. And what you're watching right now is not a financial system collapse, it is the end of Babylonian debt slavery. Okay. And so this is very important because the underpinnings of their economic system, whether they've ever told you this or not, or you slowly realize it, is basically indentured servitude or slavery. They simply hid the chains and they hid the bars of the prison walls with clever wording and with subterfuge of your divinity, your sovereignty. That which makes you a man or a woman is the image of Elohim, not any government or organizations or institutions. Your divinity, your uniqueness, your right, and all rights thereof are inherent upon you standing on the earth. That is all. And so, made in his image and after his likeness, there are those that would steal those rights and then dole them back out to you as if they were privileges. And this is what is collapsing. So, you're seeing a resurgence of sovereignty in the earth as nations recover their sovereignty, and that's really what you're watching. And what did he say was the purpose of the leaves of the trees? He specifically says in the book of Revelation that the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations, not for the destruction of the nations, not for the wiping out of the nations, not for the combining of the nations into one giant conglomerate mess. No, the healing of the nations. And that's exactly what you're watching right now as we look at the world, if you will. And so you're seeing a number of things happening, and this show that we've been watching for some time is in fact imploding. Okay, so the turnover rate in this dream team administration has been brisk. As a matter of fact, this A team has a turnover rate of 47%, and they just lost one of their key players in Susan Rice, I believe, just resigned. Um, the jury is basically reviewing the data, right? There, people are starting to figure out that this gig is up, and they're abandoning ship. As a matter of fact, the calls for impeachment. Problem with the goose is you might have to give it to the gander. This was all set up, folks. All of it set up, and so now there's going to be a concerted effort to bring about this, and this may be the method that they attempt to use to. I do think it's a bit of smoke and mirrors. I think it's a bit of pandering to the base, but I do think it's interesting news that Tim Burkett, a Republican of the House Oversight Committee, warned the new information brought by an IRS whistleblower who is seeking protection to testify before Congress could force a Biden impeachment. And I know that there are rumors of assassination attempts against this witness. The investigation of the Biden family crimes has now revealed that at least 9 members of the family were involved in the family's money laundering schemes. At least 9 Biden family members sold access for profit around the world, and they are definitely, or they are the definition, according to this article, of a crime family. And so, what they had essentially attempted to put on the Trump family, which we can all see and feel very, um, and we're, this is all being manipulated. So we're being very theatrically moved where they want us to move. So be very careful with the assumptions and conclusions that you draw. But nevertheless, we can see how the play has played out so far. So far, they have accused one man of things that they're all guilty of. So they gaslighted the entire nation, really the whole world, with accusations of all their crimes. So they basically told on themselves what they were doing and accused other people of doing it. So this is going to backfire and is backfiring on them because, oh, what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive. Okay. And all these theatrics are all coming down. Nobody cares. Okay, nobody cares, and this is one of the things that unfortunately these theatrical people don't ever seem to figure out until it's too late, and that's that they wear out the audience with their theatrics. They get us all tired, and we, to the point, look, we like I said, people were checking out of the news, right? They don't even want to hear it anymore. And as a result, of course, in some ways that's good for them because then they get to get away with more. But enough are awake that I believe is going to continue to cause them some serious hemorrhaging. And we're seeing more of this. This is more light coming out of the dark. The whistleblower to tell the House that U.S. government is the middleman in the multi-billion-dollar migrant child trafficking operation. This is scary, folks, uh, that this is even being printed and that it is being talked about, much less that it could be true that your own government is, in fact, the middleman in this horrible practice. The House Judiciary Subcommittee hearing on Wednesday will feature the testimony from a whistleblower who will warn lawmakers that the U.S. has become the middleman in a multi-billion dollar migrant child trafficking operation at the border. The hearing, the Biden border crisis exploitation of unaccompanied alien children, will be held by the House Judiciary Subcommittee in an Immigration, Integrity, Security Enforcement, and will examine the surge in unaccompanied children at the southern border. And according to Customs and Border Protection statistics, the number of unaccompanied children who arrive at the border has swelled from 33,239 in fiscal year 2020 to more than 146,000 children in fiscal year 2021 and 152,000 in fiscal year 2022. So the real thing going on, according to this report, has everything to do with a business that apparently is in need of constant fresh meat. That's what it looks like to us from the 10,000-foot view. What are your thoughts? Write them in the comments. I'm interested to see your thoughts on this because this is gut wrenching. This is one of those things that I know Elohim is looking down at. And what this makes me think of every time I think of this topic is the saints under the throne who are crying and asking, how long, Elohim, before you judge those who decapitated, who mutilated, who murdered them in horrific ways? And now we can see, right? And this also brings a different, excuse me for just a sec, because this is a tough subject for me, boy. I can't even tell you. I am on the opposite side of this spectrum. We have a rule here that nobody even gets hurt. If a scrape is a big deal around here, okay? So you have to understand. And this is horrific, and this is exactly what I believe triggers Elohim. Messiah said um, that it would be better for a millstone to be tied around the neck and one to be cast into the sea than to hurt one of the little ones that believe in him. And so I know that he watches all of this with tears, with grief, with sorrow. And and if this is what it was in the days of Noah, if this is the horror, if this is what they were doing, which we know they were, it makes complete sense that he completely annihilated every unclean vessel on the earth, and only Noah found grace. And so this makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, we're being contaminated as a species, as a people, in ways we didn't even realize. So they're warring against us to contaminate us, and I've told you that before. Their entire effort um, is to contaminate you. And this really goes back. Remember what Messiah said, as the days of Noah were. And one of the things that they discovered back then, that you all now know, but they didn't really know, is as these children of the watchers died, they became demons. So then they started to basically take another body. How would you feel? What if you're a sinister spirit and you find out that you can just kill the body you're in and go to another one? The earth was filled with violence. All right, because there were so many defiled and so many unclean, sin filled, defiantly against the word of Elohim people. So they were walk ins. They were demonic walk-ins, just like you have today. All these pictures that they're trying to show you, zombies and people coming back to life, and intelligence transfer, like The Sixth Day or other movies where they're showing you transference of consciousness, or I Frankenstein, where they're going to fill all these dead, these bodies with spirits. They're telling you, they're telling you that that the Nephilim, these spirits, the same spirits that Messiah, when he cast them out, they went into the pigs. Okay. And the pigs went over the cliff. Remember that? Thousands. I think it was a couple thousand pigs, right? So this is no joke. And these spirits inhabit. That's what they do. All right. And so this is how the resurgence occurred. I don't want to get into too much, but this is a big deal, folks. And these spirits are literally driving this thing into the ground. And so they have taken over bodies, and they're bringing about their demise. And again, there's no logic to it. This is you're watching an abuser. You're watching an abuser lose his victim and doesn't know what to do with it and is throwing a fit. That's what you're watching. And that's exactly what's happening worldwide as nations, independent, sovereign nations. So something like 100 and there's something like 190 nations, and there's only like a handful that are not de-dollarizing. Okay. So again, folks, it's all over but the shouting. Basically, Indonesia is now following suit. Even smaller countries are now following suit in BRICS de-dollarization move. Indonesia is following the lead of the BRICS group in its policies of shifting away from the US dollar in trade and financial transactions, according to the country's central bank, because they all are realizing that by trading in US dollars, you continue to finance this evil. And little by little, they're all disconnecting from it. Indonesia has initiated diversification of the use of the currency in the form of LCT, local currency trading. The direction is the same as the BRICS. In fact, Indonesia is more concrete. And so they're implementing. These are huge people groups, folks. These are huge populations that are disconnecting from the U.S. dollar, and I believe that that's going to continue to cause financial hemorrhaging across the board. So those that are watching bank failures and all that stuff, I told you, folks, this thing is all over. This is all the sort of wind down, and they're going to continue to manage the narrative to hand you the pass off. See, they can't pass off with a new currency and move the debt. They want to, You know, they can't stand the thought. They just can't stand the notion of giving you a jubilee. It just, this is what the fight is all about. It's just so hard for them to just free you from your debts. They just can't do it. They're just having such a hard time. And they're trying to set this up so that they can instantaneously, while on the one hand they technically free you, you know, that's how they look at it, and put you right back into debt again. You know, switch you right into another currency, and try not to say anything, so you just kind of keep going along, still paying your. In other words, the debt transfers to the new currency. Only you didn't borrow this new currency, so them trying to transfer is really illegal. It's fraud. It's a ruse. But they've been trying to figure out a way, and this is really what's been slowing the whole thing down, is them trying to figure out a way out of what they have to do to make. They can't grab their new future without giving you freedom, without giving you freedom, and that's something that has really bothered them. What are they trying to do? They're trying desperately to coordinate effort with whatever states they still have left within the Western nations, as well as the European nations to the degree that they can. What they're trying to do is, of course, implement their digital currency. And why a digital currency? Well, they won't run out of that. Okay, you can't run out of a digital currency. They can just keep creating more. And so they're all excited. I'm pleased to appear and just share with you now entering the final stage. Oh, wow, we're so excited. The final stages. Meanwhile, the world is yawning, saying, yeah, we don't want what you're selling. And again, had there been a war that was all encompassing, and that had everybody cowering in corners, and they would have had a better backdrop. But because they couldn't quite pull that off and the time's up, they got to go with it anyway. And it is naked, it is in front of everybody, and it's not going to work. There are probably going to be some scare events. My guess is they're going to have to bring some type of scare event, some type of inducement, because right now the favor, or the favorability index, if you will, if you want to look at it like that, is so low. They have the worst reputation. They are considered absolutely your worst choice, and that is across the board. That is even in the heart of the very countries they still have power in, and even those citizens want nothing to do with them. You've got 27 states, last I heard, that were applying directly to BRICS and trying to figure out ways to go around the financial system themselves. This is states. That's bad news when your own states are looking to go around. I mean, can you imagine if 20 of the states in China were deciding, hey, we don't want to use the yuan anymore, right? Wouldn't you think, ooh, bad things happening in China, right? Well, you've got a different type of collapse going on. You've got a loss of confidence, and that's worse. And people are withdrawing their funds from these banks, but the problem is, where do you go, right? And so your answers are going to be limited, and many people, of course, are choosing that gold and silver. I think they're setting everyone up with that one. I think that's another theft that they're going to pull. That's just me, but I smell a rat there. It's just too. There's just something about it, but we'll find out by this summer. So we'll find out if my instincts on that were correct. But I'm not alone. There's a few of my brethren that are also saying, I don't know, I'm a little suspicious of this plan. And in terms of functionality, not in terms of wealth retention. So, of course, if you have gold and you park it somewhere that you're using for your long term savings, well, of course, that's going to retain some value. It's an intrinsically valuable metal, right? So, whether it be silver or gold or platinum or titanium or whatever you're putting aside, well, of course, it is a physical thing that has some value. But in terms of functionality, in terms of functioning day to day, you're getting gas, you're buying groceries, you're paying off something that you need. That functionality, we're too far apart physically for physical gold to really work in a broad sense. And again, so there would have to be an intermediary, right? So there would have to be some way to say, okay, I got Bob's gold here, I received it, and I have to transfer something to you, 500 miles away so that you could get the gold there, right? So what would that be? That's called currency, folks. Okay, that's what it is. That's what a currency is. So that's what currency allows you to do. In fact, we were just talking about that. People talk all the time about, well, we should be sending food. Well, how are you going to send food? Let's say your brother's 1,000 miles away. It's easier to just send him the money for the food. Let him buy it right there, right? Let them buy it locally. So you took your money, sent it digitally, went lands on their debit card. They can go and buy there locally. You understand what I'm trying to say? We're now used to that. That is now normal commerce for us. Trying to take us back to the the Middle Ages where somebody's got to send a courier with a little sack of coins. I mean, we're not going there. That's not going to happen. Inside of less than a week, there would be another system, right? So you just need to understand that a lot of that's just ruse, just taking advantage of fear mongering, taking advantage of the same fears that were happening in the 1930s. They happened to such a degree that they ended up confiscating everybody's gold. Okay, so no, our problems and challenges will not be solved in that manner. You have to come up with an alternative, and in fact, that is what all these nations are doing. So, what is the ruble? The ruble is an alternative to the dollar. What is the rupee? An alternative to the dollar. What is and I could go on, right? The yuan, the euro, all of these are local currencies that they can go on with, okay, without this as they de-dollarize, right? And so they're going to be utilizing their systems. They're going to utilize electronic payment systems. So if any country is trying to go back to the Stone Age with carrying bags one to another, that will end quickly. Not only will that be a massive security issue, if you think you need a Brinks truck to carry cash to the ATMs, what you think you need to carry gold to pay for something or silver, and everybody's carrying gold, and so, oh my goodness. I think it's laughable. I really do. Meanwhile, they attack the Second Amendment, right? I mean, that's just setting everybody up, okay, for mass conflagration. And again, these spirits, not the people. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. I'm not talking about any people. I'm not talking about a single human being. I'm talking about spirits, and these spirits want bloodshed in every way they can figure it out. Okay, and so here we go. Now, throwing this thing into a whole different direction, lead story tonight on Remnant Watch is that the godfather of AI, he leaves Google and he warns of dangers ahead. Okay, so again, this is the new thing going on right now, right? AI, everybody's crazy about AI. Funny, that's exactly what Morpheus said in the movie The Matrix. They were all amazed at AI, right? So it's like they programmed us for this moment. Geoffrey Hinton was an artificial intelligence pioneer. In 2012, Dr. Hinton and two of his graduate students at the University of Toronto created technology that became the intellectual foundation for the AI systems that the tech industry's biggest companies believe is a key to their future. On Monday, however, he officially joined a growing chorus of critics who say those companies are racing toward danger with their aggressive campaign to create products based on generative artificial intelligence, the technology that powers popular chatbots like Chat GPT. Dr. Hinton said that he has quit his job at Google, where he has worked for more than a decade, and became one of the most respected voices in the field so he can freely speak out about the risks of AI. A part of him, he said, now regrets his life's work. I'm going to take a little rabbit trail here and take a moment to explain this to you guys a little bit. You see, these spirits taught men. Haven't you ever wondered how it is that they taught men? And so you said, how did they teach men metallurgy and painting of the eyes and all of these things? if you've ever encountered these spirits, you know them not to be very polite and sit you down spirits. They think of you as inferior. What likely occurred, and based on what I'm getting by the Ruach, is that of course all they needed was an unclean vessel. Once unclean, as Messiah warned Cain, that your enemy crouches at the door. All they had to have was one woman who was willing to be a witch, willing to be a medium, willing to be a conduit, gives herself over. Now, this person is speaking, but the words coming out of their mouth are being controlled by a different spirit. These are the same spirits that, these same beings, if you will, highly intelligent. Their intelligence level was far superior. So they made scientific advances, and we see all of the chimeras, we see all of the genetic splicing. They went to war against man to destroy his genome, to destroy the bloodline so that Mashiach could not come. They were unsuccessful. Noah found grace in Elohim's eyes and retained his genetic purity. Now, they cross over through the flood. They come to the other side. There's only 8 of them alive. There's nobody else. Okay? There's nobody else alive. So, how in the world do we end up back again with Nephilim? All you need is one unclean vessel, just like Elohim only needs one man to obey him, and he can change the world. So the devil only needs one vessel that's willing to compromise. That's why you have to leave none alive. When Joshua took the land of Israel, he was to leave the land of Canaan, he was to leave none alive. Why? Because if only one, as you have now historically found out, finds a tablet and starts reversing engineering, what do? Defile themselves. Okay? They become a defiled vessel. That vessel is now inhabited by a spirit. That spirit picks up its work right where it left off. So the next thing you know, this person's entire personality changes. They are now working in some basement or some cave and putting elements together. And where did they get this knowledge? Where did they get this understanding? And you know what they'll tell you? It just came to me. I was inspired. I had a bolt of lightning. I just started automatic writing. I just started writing things. I had a vision. I had a dream, right? And everything vision and dream is all good. So they just ran with it. There's no testing the spirits back then. Okay. They didn't have that. They didn't have that. They weren't given that instruction. So they just accepted things and didn't find out it was wicked until they had already done it, until they'd already gone down so far. This is the nature of evil. It doesn't warn you properly of what's going to happen. It tricks you, right? And so these vessels opened the door for these demonic spirits to move through them. This happened again within our recent historical record. And how can you know that this occurred? Dramatic change in scientific breakthroughs and dramatic new technologies and new innovations that man had no pathway to, and suddenly they have this information or knowledge or breakthroughs, right? This is what they are interacting with. And frankly, they'll tell you they're interacting. We'll call them aliens, they'll call them all these different things. But essentially, ladies and gentlemen, what they're essentially doing is the exact same thing that was done prior to the flood and after the flood. Where once you communicate with these spirits, they will show you, they'll take over the body of their scientist or their practitioner and move through them and move right through them. And then when they're done with that person, they'll die and move to another vessel. All right. So the more unclean vessels they have to operate with, the better. In fact, the more of them they have, the more ruthlessly they will discard. the vessel that they were using and jump right into another one, which is why they can allow scientists and innovators to be destroyed, go to prison, whatever. Doesn't matter. Next thing you know, you got a next generation coming up just as defiled, can't find holy with both hands and a flashlight, haven't been clean, haven't been properly baptized, and couldn't even tell you the name of the king if you spelled it out for them. And so they have no defense against these demonic spirits. Just so you understand, this thing has been plotted for hundreds of years to systematically remove your defenses in the same way that they are systematically attacking your body with chemicals and pollutants. They are not using one method, they are using multiple methods in the exact same way. That is a reflection of the spiritual attack we have all endured. So, as we come back to the truth, you realize the daunting task that you have in front of you of awakening a people that are essentially eating zombie food and that have become zombified in the process. Artificial intelligence is nothing more than a gatekeeping, a gateway that they inspired mankind to create so that they could have a digital Ouija board and they could speak to people directly. And where they're ending up and where they're trying to go is that you just worship the AI, right? The artificial intelligence. This is spooky beyond words. And they've already proven that it's been trained to lie and deceive. So now we have a super intelligent artificial intelligence that's deceptive, that deceives, right? And so this is where we really are, folks. And I just wanted to take that little rabbit trail because then when you see things and you see a person up there, you go, oh, this is not a person, this is a spirit. Yes, masquerading in the body of a man but implementing their agenda. Now look at the headline. The globalists are coming for your food. You might as well be saying the Nephilim are coming for your food. Okay, experts warn. Plant-based tyranny will rule the world. Okay, no, it won't, but they sure love to say things like this, don't they? All right, the next phase of the forced transition to green living involves depriving everyday folks of access to meat and dairy because such foods cause global warming, we are told. We will abide by a plant-based diet at all times or else, was the message bellowing from the mouth of New York City Mayor Eric Adams this week as he told city residents that they have until the year 2030 to cut out the meat and dairy in order to meet the Big Apple's new emissions goals. As if what you eat had anything to do with emissions. Folks, this is just pure spiritual tyranny. This person's already been taken over. Okay. So this is now, you're not talking to the man, the original person. And anyone who has met them and knows these people, like when you originally meet them and versus the person they become, they completely transform. They are not the same person because they get taken over. And so again, there's only a remnant that have the power to cast out these spirits. Okay. The rest they laugh at and they just walk in whenever they want and they run roughshod over them. So these are victims. This man, as authoritative as he tries to sound, is really a victim, probably, spiritually in the corner while this other spirit is running his body. So a lot of these things that people are standing up to say, and you're going, that is, what in the world? Where did that, what? It's the Nephilim that you're actually listening to. It's not a human being anymore. So I'm just going to tell you things that you're not going to hear that on any news analysis program. Because again, this spiritual component they're devoid of understanding. Many of them are of this element. And even those that are aware of the element, if they are deceived in how to be properly baptized and how to walk in his ways, they will be powerless when confronting these demonic powers. So it doesn't matter that you know what it is if you can't cast it out, if you have no power. Okay. And this is what many, many people are facing. And again, it's all a setup. This is all meant to continue to gaslight you, and you're going to have more and more attacks on your psyche. This is all psychological warfare meant to mess with your head and to put you in a continuous state of fear which is how the enemy works. He works by fear. We walk by faith. Perfect love casts out fear. So we have none of it. And that makes it difficult for him to continue to try to get us afraid. Nothing to be afraid of. Look at this. U.S. military is tracking yet another mysterious balloon. Dun, dun, dun. News at 11, right? The military was determined that it poses no threat to aerial traffic or national security, which they figured out when they tell you this kind of stuff, like it's no big deal, that you have the opposite reaction. So they're doing this on purpose, too. So this is a little bit of reverse psychology. The U.S. military is tracking the mysterious balloon that flew over America's soil, but it's not clear what it is or whom it belongs to, according to 3 U.S. officials. The object flew across portions of Hawaii, but did not go over any sensitive areas. And so, once again, they're sort of informing you, but not wanting to alarm you. And again, I don't want you to be worried about this, but there's aliens in the backyard or something like that. It's manipulation. It's just messing with the head. And that's what this is part of the plan, is to get you to where you don't know what to believe, you don't know who to believe, everyone's credibility is gone, and they're after that. Okay. And again, this is all winding down based on we knew this last fall. We knew that they had already had a deadline to try to bring in their digital, replacement system. In fact, here we see Janet Yellen even flat saying that the drop dead. Look at this. Even uses this terminology. Okay. Drop dead is June 1st. That's less than a month, folks. Well, we're 1 month away from this, right? Today, right? So lawmakers have until June 1st to raise the nation's debt ceiling. Why is this taking so long? Why is this such a big deal? How many of these have they already passed? Why is this one such a big drag out? Why has this one become a 6 months discussion? What's going on here, right? Well, what's going on is they're trying to figure out again how to get you past this line while holding all your debt. They do not want to give you a jubilee, but they cannot get past the jubilee. So this is big deal for them. And you'll always know spirits of control hate freedom. We are in the year of release. That means you're not allowed to hold the debt. And there are some people, even supposed Torah keepers, that will still try to hold that debt. That's evil and wicked. They're trying to get the debt to go past the door of the Jubilee or to past the year of release. This is wickedness, saints. Okay. This is the love of mammon, and it is the root of all evil. All right. So just be aware of that. And I'm glad you guys are aware of the milk issue. I'm so glad that Sister Octavia brought that up. And you see, every piece of information as the remnant, as you all begin to compare notes and share information, you're going to start to unravel their schemes. You're going to do it together. You're going to do it united, and then you have to come up with solutions united. You can't just uncover the scheme and go back to sleep, folks. You got to say, okay, now what are we going to do? And this is what I'm looking forward to, because I believe this is when you're going to see the most amazing time in Earth's history. Look at these countries that are now decided, Russia has decided it's going to, rely on its ruble. Guess what? I bet you they went to work on that ruble. They're probably more proud of their ruble than they've ever been. Why? Because they resolved in their mind they were done with this other thing, right? They were done. They're ahead of you. They're ahead of you. They were done with the US dollar. They're completely done. They're going to use a different currency altogether. Altogether, right? How many people would be frightened? Like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'd function. I don't know, because it's an emotional thing. They've attached us. And so, saints, understand that you're coming out of an attachment. You're getting deliverance right now. Okay. You're getting deliverance from a mental construct that was meant to keep you enslaved. All right. And they're continuing to hope, kicking the can down the road, keep you tethered to it till they're ready. And I'm not really sure what's holding them up. I would have thought they would have ran out here with their CBDC, but something tells me that it's working about as good as Obamacare's website. I've got feelings. I'm telling you, I'm thinking they thought it would be no big deal. It's a big deal. It's turning out to be harder than they thought, and they're running off all kinds of challenges. In the meantime, we're continuing to see more and more shaking. Didn't he promise that he was going to shake and shake again? Isn't that what he says? Well, here we're all of a sudden. How many know that California, and really seismically, if you guys watch Dutch Sense and keep an eye on his channel, he's like the earthquake guru, like Mr. Earthquake. May as well just call him Joe Earthquake, man. Dutch Earthquake, and he's been tracking the increasing number of earthquakes, and the swarm of quakes shakes the Salton Sea region in Southern California, seismologists say, which I believe is a very big hint of things to come. The first swarm began at 12:08 on Shabbat, April 29th, and the quakes continued overnight, one hitting at 5:12 a.m. And so they're not huge, but something's rumbling underneath. And so again, these are all things that indicate to us. Messiah told us there would be earthquakes in diverse places. And while we try not to make too much of that, we do watch the pattern. So if there's a uptick, then we know something's happening, right? So if it's changed, this is why we love Watchmen like Dutch Sense and others that keep track on specific things. Now we know. And so if that person starts blowing a trumpet and saying, folks, 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 there's way more earthquakes than ever before, that's important. That's important information. So I believe that the earthquake issue is going to be dramatic over this next season. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Now, I want to remind everybody that in addition to some of the other challenges that this country has faced, and I believe this is probably happening throughout the Western world, probably all over the world at this time, but certainly a problem here in the United States. And frankly, we are told, and I'm speaking concerning the fentanyl epidemic that has taken a horrific number of lives and destroyed lives as well. When they can destroy the parents, now you have, orphans. And as we know, they love vulnerable children, right? Okay. So to this point, if you were to ask me, if I were to take a poll out here and ask, where's all this, how's this fentanyl getting into the United States of America, right? Most people, and myself included, would have said something to the effect that it's being brought across the border by cartels or by, illegal smuggling, right? I mean, it's going to be brought by, the wicked, okay? Would you have thought that it would be being brought over by the police? On the list of answers, how high or low would, say, a police union leader had been on your list? Probably like it, you wouldn't even think of this, right? You probably would have said, no way, no way. Okay, yes way. Yes way. All right. Bay Area police union leader allegedly smuggled fentanyl into the U.S. to sell in bulk. Are you kidding me? She received 61 shipments over 8 years, federal prosecutors allege. The head of a police union in the San Francisco Bay Area faces federal charges for allegedly smuggling thousands of synthetic opioids in the form into the U.S. from multiple countries with the intent to distribute them. San Jose Police Officers Association Executive Director Joanne Marian Segovia, 64, has been charged with attempting to unlawfully import a controlled substance, specifically fentanyl. Okay, and folks, this stuff makes you comatose. Okay, yeah, it's a pain reliever, but it's for severe. This is post surgery pain relief. That's what fentanyl is. Fentanyl is what Josiah was on when they finished his heart surgery, and then they had to wean him off of that with methadone. This stuff is highly addictive and extremely potent. Okay, so for this to be being pulled in by the actual, I mean, this is insanity that we're watching here. Now, who thinks that this is the only one? Out of the whole country. Nobody else but this one lady was the only one doing this. Right? I don't buy that. I believe that when you find one, you better go looking. You better start now looking, because if there's no crime, there's no need for these people. Okay? If your city is crime free, what do you need to spend millions and billions of dollars on all this stuff for? So there are profit centers in various ways. There's various ways in which money moves. Okay? And the love of money is the root of all evil. And so does this surprise you? Does this make you wonder? Are you sitting there going, I am so very shocked. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I'm very shocked. Very, very shocked. Octavia is not shocked. They're not shocking us because we should know that this is basically what it is. So now take this all the way up and down the authority structure. And you got Nephilim inhabiting people left and right. They're laughing their way in and out of meetings, laughing their tails off on how they're scamming one group or another group. This is all laughing at people. So the more and more that you see of this, the more of the people, the real people, the good people of the city, the citizens, if you will eventually react. So you, wise ones, should be standing back a little bit, because the reaction is going to be explosive. Don't be in the middle of that. Let them, never interfere with an enemy who's destroying themselves. Let's let them, right? And so this is going to be the way it's going to be. And then if you haven't noticed, one of the 10 signs, by the way, that in April 1st, 2014, the king gave me a prophetic word. He says he gives in advance the things that are going to happen. And he warned me, gave me 10 signs that would be preceding the coming of the king, and that I would be able to watch these 10 things occur. One of those 10 things, which again, 2014. All right, folks, I want you to remember the atmosphere. There was none of this discussion. They were still in full denial mode of anything UFO, of anything alien, of anything like that. And he said that one of the 10 signs of his coming that he gave to me to be paying attention to would be that they would openly admit, it would go mainstream. UFO tech and UFO conversations and UFO acknowledgement would go mainstream. Okay, that's what he told me. So at the time, it was not even close. they were still going, well, what are you talking about? You're crazy, right? Now, whole different atmosphere. Now they want you to think like this. Why? What is going on? Viewers share videos of mysterious lights hovering in the night sky over Las Vegas Valley. Dun dun dun. What are those mysterious lights Thursday over Las Vegas's night sky? Oh no! Every so often, residents of the Las Vegas Valley report such sightings and catch the sparkling illuminations on video. UFOs, perhaps military training, the airport. The speculation spreads. Oh my goodness! Right? All from lights, folks. Can I just tell you something? We have known about Project Bluebeam for decades. And with Project Bluebeam, they're able to project into the sky literally anything they want. The sky becomes a projection screen. We have seen them create dolphins and whales swimming in midair that if you looked at it, you would think it was real. So putting lights in the sky is just that's amateur hour for these guys. So again, you got to question everything now. There's so much that they use to fool people, like these Phoenix lights that everybody swears were UFOs, right? Project Bluebeam, folks, they're just seeing how gullible people are, how easily fooled they are. They're taking your temperature to see if you'll fall for their latest tricks. But there's nothing new under the sun. Amen. And they're probably trying desperately to fly these clunker flying machines, and they've had them. Anti-gravity, How do you think they moved all these big rocks back way back when? They figured out with small voltages you can lift up very heavy things. Small voltage, nothing huge. I just watched today. I was watching experiments with electromagnetism, and they were lifting bowling balls with small amounts of electrical charge. Folks, these folks know what they're doing, and they took years to study, and then they passed that information to man by possession. By possession. So now you got the crazy, that's where you get the crazy scientist, right? The Frankenstein scientist. He's possessed. He's possessed by a spirit, and that spirit is doing the experiments. He just took the person as a glove. Okay. So all of this you're seeing here is all setting you up. It's all part of their scare event. And I believe it's meant to just get you to fall in line. And again, the remnant are going to yawn. I'm just letting you know right now, the remnant are not going to fall for it because, again, it's going to be kind of obvious to us, but it will fool. They're going to attempt to fool the very elect. I don't believe they'll be successful. And this is coming up quick, folks. We got very little time to prepare. So those of you that were supposed to change location, you're almost out of time. Those of you that were supposed to, get into communities, you're almost out of time. Those of you that were supposed to convert resources to help, and the king put that on you. In fact, that's why he gave you what you have. You're almost out of time. I mean, it's just it is what it is, right? And we're gonna go. He's gonna take care of us regardless. This was a attempt. This was his effort to pull in the harvest. Not everybody's coming. Not everybody obeys. A lot of talkers, not a lot of walkers. Amen. So I pray that there's more walkers on this broadcast because we can't just talk the talk. We got to walk the walk. The DOJ Inspector General has confirmed that the FBI has conducted 3.4 million warrantless, unconstitutional backdoor searches on you. Who are they looking for? Why are they looking? Who are they most concerned about? During a recent House Judiciary Subcommittee hearing, Gates successfully got Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz to admit to the room that the Federal Bureau of Investigation has conducted at least 3.4 million warrantless backdoor searches of Americans' communications, which is a violation of the law. So you have a, a government agency that is essentially rogue because this is blatant violation of the law, and they're using this to somehow justify themselves as a law enforcement agency. You've lost your high ground when you are a violator yourself. You've lost your high ground. And so this is going to I'm not sure that this isn't being deliberately done so as to cause the mass release of convicted criminals. If you can discredit this institution and do so successfully, what are the chances that lawyers are going to be able to go in and argue that their client was also a victim of this victimization? Folks, this is also part of the implosion, is the full loss of confidence in institutions. And again, we're not here to defend these institutions. I certainly don't want to prop it up, but I'm just letting you know that they're warming up to the collapse of these things so as to give you its replacement. Don't ever think that they're going to just destroy the DOJ and not give you something else. Here comes they got their replacement all ready to go, and they just don't want to say anything until you're completely disgusted with the old one. Okay, so first they got to get you disgusted, and they're almost there. The remnant were there day one, but they got to get the average person to that same place, and when they do, then they're able to pull uh, their latest things. And again, they continue to presume that you want their advice on health as if they are the arbiters of good health and they are the ones that know what's best for the human body. And the reality is these folks are the enemies of your health, and so you need to be very careful. Nevada children, just speaking of Nevada, kind of interesting, They're highlighting this particular part of the world. Maybe a reason for that. Nevada children have experienced rare brain infections and abscesses as CDC investigates. Oh, wow. Boy, I feel so much comfort knowing that the CDC, a private corporation that owns the patent on many injections, they're the ones that are going to investigate. Don't y'all feel so secure? It's unclear whether COVID restrictions could have caused weakened immunity, doctors say. After cases of brain abscesses in children reportedly tripled last year in southern Nevada, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is investigating potential reasons for the spike. This is all that gaslighting. Like, we don't know why these children are experiencing these results. Okay? And so, folks, this is reality. Now, I want to warn you all that um, this is not a joke. This whole depopulation thing, this is serious as it gets. And my last story tonight confirms that their efforts are succeeding. They are succeeding. They are not reporting this. This is being only reported. Thank you again to our friends over at Natural News, Mike Adams. Shout out again to my buddy out there. Really grateful for the work that they do. And I didn't see anybody else reporting on this, but this confirms the report. Yes, my sister, that's right. And in fact, on Remnant Watch, we had a story that said 1 billion have died. I think we mentioned that on our last broadcast. But again, we don't, we always like independent verification. There needs to be some way to verify that, right? There needs to be some way to authenticate that information. So what should we see in the USA? There should be some indicator. Yeah, criminal disease cabal, right? That's a good one. There should be some indicator that there are less people, right? So, what would you look for? I want to just ask you this real quick. What would you, if you were investigating this and you were saying, I'm wondering if more people, if people are perishing, what would be the indicator to you? Well, one of the things that we all have and carry around and are part of our daily lives, not everybody, but most people, are tethered to, is their cell phone, right? And so my last story today is confirming a previous story about the number of people that are in fact perishing. Because once we take a look at actual cell phone usage, you can't deny that some dramatic things are happening. Mobile phone data shows that post pandemic cities, most especially San Francisco, by the way, but Chicago and Boston are much less busy. Where did the people go? Okay. And so the downtowns of many American cities have become ghost towns thanks to the Wuhan China virus. China. A new analysis shows that downtown activity in places like San Francisco, Chicago, and Boston have plummeted ever since the scamdemic, and this according to mobile phone data. So this is the kind of data points that really are hard to fake, right? Because unless they're training the AI to create fake conversations, and I may have just given them an idea, but anyway, they're busted, right? According to data collected by the University of Toronto School of Cities, as of the fall of 2022, this is 2022 fall, and more have died since then. Many major downtown population centers are much less busy than they were prior to the COVID. Los Angeles, for instance, gained back only 2/3 of its former life, as measured by cell phone activity. And this is one of the better comebacks. Other downtowns like Chicago, Vancouver, and British Columbia, Seattle, and San Francisco have barely recovered half of their pre pandemic activity. The lull also affects boomtowns of former years like Denver, Atlanta, and Houston. So it's all city. It's not like one or two. It's all of them. Are American cities dying because people are dying, or is everyone just staying home these days? Right. Well, don't they live downtown? Don't they live in the cities? It all started, according to the San Francisco Chronicle, with workers who continue to work from home long after the lockdowns ended. So now they're going to try to justify this and say, oh, it's not mass deaths. No, no, no. It's just people, they just like working from home. We haven't heard from them in 6 months, but we're sure they're working. Right. And I agree. Working from home was in 2004. I wrote a whole course called Financial Dominion, and I predicted that you would need to learn how to remote work in order for you to be mobile and agile in this coming economy, and that the economy was being set up as a digital economy. And I was laughed at. I was called a scam artist. I was called all kinds of names as people were like, no, 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 that's just not possible, not true, blah, blah, blah. Here we are, right? And so that's what they're using as their excuse. They're saying, "Oh, yes, everybody is working remotely," right? Well, and I do agree with that. But like my sister Birdie here, who is in California. Hi, Birdie. Thanks for popping in. Good to see you. Nice to see you. Oh, there you are. There you are. Um, she still uses her cell phone, right? She still yes, you may. She still uses that cell phone. We have to upload it. So that's been the holdup. I'm just one guy and I could use some digital help. So if any of you are webmasters, come talk to me. But anyway, um, that information has been available. uh, uh, we've known that this was happening. Like, I'm not the only one that said it. There were a lot of other vessels that are out there that said it. But now, like, you take someone like Birdie. Well, yeah, she still calls the office, right? So she works still, even though she's working remotely, she's still communicating. So she would be still of the 2/3 that are still communicating. No, they're talking about cell phone data. Like, cell phones have dropped off. They're just not working. This is how they busted them in China. Um, what was the number, Octavia, that they figured out was missing from China? Wasn't it like 20 million people? 20, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, my sister, for that fact check. I thought it was, oops, sorry, 20 to 21 million. Yeah, that's what I thought. And so this is a very interesting way of confirming that something dramatically has changed, because cell phones, as you well know, you would be not only using it for communication, but it pings all day, right? It pings all day. So it's not just conversation, it's just updates, emails, text messages. How many things ding your phone all day long, right? Unless it's dead because nobody's plugged it in, it's just gone. So it can't receive messages, it can't do anything because it's dead. If you're dead, you probably aren't plugging in your phone. I'm just saying. That's probably happening, right? So, and I'm not sure that these devices aren't assassination devices, that they're using them as transmitters. So the data is still out for that, but that is definitely something for us to keep our eye on. So the Biden regime, the entire financial system, common sense is dead too. That's correct, boy. I tell you what, you ain't lied yet. That's exactly right. Um, as we go forward, you're going to see more and more collapsing kind of things or statements. Many of this is meant to elicit a response from you. The response that all of you should have at the fall of Babylon is rejoicing. You are being freed and you should be elated. Yes, it's going to mean change, because whenever you do some new things, you're going to have to change. For example, utilizing alternative methods for payment like a cryptocurrency or something like that. That's new to us. So they know that we hate change, and they're counting on that to hold on to you. But unfortunately, I don't believe we have a choice. We're going to have to disconnect and come out of her, my people, if you will, so that we're not a partaker of their sins. And so our encouragement to all of you is to hold all these things of this present age very loosely. Now, what happens? This is bonus time. What happens, in my opinion, once they've made the switch over. Chaos. Chaos. Folks, if they install new software at the shipping company, you have chaos. If they install new software for the cashiers at Walmart, you have chaos. If they install new software for inventory control or any other thing, everybody who works in IT, everybody that works in any tech field that's in any way connected with upgrades of system software and system-wide things. My cousin's husband used to work for a chain of grocery stores, and they measured their outages in money because for every minute that they were down, if they had an outage, they were losing a certain amount of money in transactions. And so I want you to think about gas stations. I want you to think about grocery stores. I want you to think about wholesale, transport, all kinds of different things that require a payment system that works flawlessly and fluidly and with a lot of confidence. And a lot of what we do in our society is based on trust. Okay. And what we're going to see completely destroyed is all trust. This is what's devastating, because now how do you function? How do you cooperate? We have sort of unwritten rules about how we function, and if you break them, not and some of them are written rules or laws, right? And so what if all of that's suspended? It's the wild wild west. It's going to take a while to organize all of that, which is why I believe you're getting very good advice to have supplies, to have shelter, to have emergency preparations, because you have to be able to endure this, figure it out, period. Okay. You cannot expect that it's going to be, collapse on Yom Rishon, and by Yom Shani everything is okay. They figured it out already in one day. No, it's going to take time, and believe me, they take advantage of crisis. So this is when you want to be withdrawn. You want to do as Messiah, withdraw thyself, right? Okay, this is when you want to withdraw yourself, wait for the dust to settle, and then come out. So this is going to take time, and we don't know when we're going to see this resetting, but I believe you'll know. We're getting a lot of hints that it's going to be very soon that you're going to see this. So we'll pay close attention. But I believe what you're watching is the systematic destruction of the Babylonian money system that had enslaved mankind for quite some time. I believe that for the first time in the history of Earth, not only is it falling, but we all know about it at the same time as well. They don't have any place to hide. And as some of the crimes of these very same criminals are also brought to light at the same time as the systems collapse, I believe this will be their death, if you will. This will end it, because it will not be something that people will want ever again. The problem is, whenever you, the elation, a lot of times people go from frying pan into the fire. Okay, getting super excited about destroying one thing, you might end up worse in the next thing. So this is that transition period is the danger point. And I do believe we're going to be going into, who knows, maybe it'll be 5 months worth of difficulty, right? And we're going to see it. So this is why I strongly encourage you all to be prayerfully considering where you need to be, where on the earth you are supposed to be, with whom you are taking your shelter or communicate, being in community with. I love to see my brethren connecting together, all of you who are the remnant. And even if you aren't necessarily living together, but instead making your connections and your relationships, connecting in covenant, connecting in brotherhood, so that should trouble come, you're not alone. This whole Lone Ranger thing, I told you all for years that Lone Ranger thing wasn't going to work. And now you're going to see all the more how desperately we need our family and our friends, our brothers and sisters in Messiah. We're going to rely on one another through this time. So he said that he that endures to the end shall be saved, that we have to be alive and remain. That's what's written in the book of Thessalonians. So the dead in Christ will rise first. Anybody looking to get out before the dead, you're jumping the line. Okay? So until you see the dead rise, you need to be able to endure. You've got to be alive and remain. You've got to continue to hunker down, if you will, through difficult periods. And when the dust settles, come on out and minister to the people that are in need. Just like a tornado going by, folks. What do you do when a tornado is coming by? You can see it coming. You see the dark clouds. What do? We go down to the basement. We go down into the tornado shelter. We go into the cellar. And man, that wind goes by and it scares everybody and it rips everything apart and it tears everything down. But when it passes, we come out and we rebuild. We clean the mess. Okay? And so this is what I believe the remnant are called to do in this hour. I believe that we need to be wise to step out of the field of harm and prepare for the aftermath that you're eventually going to see. All these countries that are de-dollarizing are all going through it. If you go, I didn't put this up there, but Nigeria completely decashed, and it's causing serious problems in that country. Serious, serious problems. They can't even pull cash out of the ATM. You got riots going on. You got people, and they're testing to see the reaction of people, and it is not good. All of a sudden, their infrastructure is destroyed, and so but they know that, and they're planning on it. 1,900 food plants in the last couple of years. Yeah, that's accidental. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. I don't think they have any other plans for their banks but the very same thing. And therefore, they will cut off the ways in which you can interact and therefore control you. Right now, you have too many choices for their liking. They need to reduce those choices so that they can control your entrances and your exits, the way you go get things and how you get them. They want to be involved in everything you do. When you do things without them, so if you started to trade, cryptocurrencies and things like that, you're going around their system. They hate that because they have no idea what you're doing. They have no control. That's exactly where they're going, and that's exactly where we need to put them. People that thought it was their entitlement to be in between you and a peer-to-peer transaction, they thought it was their entitlement to get in the middle of that, need to be removed. And if so, if they don't understand that, if that sovereignty message doesn't quite get to their head, then we need to use legislation and group. We have to group together as free people to say we don't tolerate this. If we catch you doing this, we are going to prosecute that, right? So that this whole thing has to shift. And the only way that's going to shift is if the whole of the people figure out what the scam is and wake up. That is what's pictured in Matthew 25. In Matthew 25, all 10 virgins awaken. All 10. So 5 have no oil and they are not prepared for the night that they have to endure, whereas the 5 wise do. So, my encouragement to all of you is to be among the wise. Amen. To be found faithful. Amen and amen. Woo, that was a lot to go over tonight. And I know that there's going to probably be some questions. Be sure to write your questions in the comments. And any of you guys are excellent at doing your own research, and you share a lot of things with me. So if you find some additional links or things, feel free to put them in the comments, and let our brothers and sisters who come along this broadcast afterward find that. We strongly encourage you to find your fold. If you don't have a fold, to find the place that Elohim has called you to be. In Jeremiah 23, he says that he would raise up shepherds prior to the coming of the king, that he would gather his people into their folds, that they would be fruitful and increase. If you don't have a fold, we strongly recommend you come and join Remnant House until either you find that place that he's called you, or perhaps this is the place that he wants you to connect. In either case, it is our honor to walk with you, to cover you, to encourage you in any way that we can as we endure these difficult days. And my encouragement to all of you is that you seek first his kingdom and his right ways of being in this hour. Be found faithful. This broadcast is being brought to you by the faithful giving of the members of Remnant House, without whom we would not be here. Amen. And so I would love it if you were included in that number, if your name was written in that book. That would delight my heart. But wherever he's called you to be, my encouragement to you is to be found faithful. Amen and amen. And on that note, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a great time together. And we do these every first day of the, or yeah, Yom Shani. Every Yom Shani, we do these on the evening. So we certainly encourage you to join us again. Please like, please share, please subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep us in prayer. Amen. As we do these things he's called us to do, don't think the enemy doesn't oppose us, and don't think we don't have our own battles. Again, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. Thank you so much for joining us. May Elohim bless you all.